Hey guys, my name is Nikunj and OnePlus dropped 3 new phones last night. The OnePlus 9 Pro starting at 65,000, the OnePlus 9 starting at 50,000 and the OnePlus 9R starting at 40,000. The OnePlus 9R. The OnePlus 9R. Did OnePlus pull off an apple? Let's find out. So this is the part that has me a little confused. Worldwide, OnePlus released 2 phones, the OnePlus 9 and the OnePlus 9 Pro, with pretty similar features, a few things here and there, but overall, a pretty similar experience. In India, however, they've released 3 phones, the 9R, although the Nord already exists. The 9, which has a couple of features similar to what the 9 Pro has, a couple of features similar to what the 9R has, but one feature, which is wireless charging, is missing in the Indian version of the 9, which is something that I have absolutely no clue why they've done. And then the 9 Pro, which is an absolute beast on paper. So talking about the 9R, if we quickly look at the spec, it has a 6.55-inch 1080p panel, which is good. It has 120 Hz fluid display, that's good. Then the main thing to see over here is the fact that instead of the Snapdragon 888 that the bigger brothers of this particular phone have, this has the Snapdragon 870. Though it does have a 5G modem in it and it is going to support 5G like its bigger brothers, it is using somewhat of an older style of chipset. It is not going to be a huge bump as far as performance is concerned though, but overall, yeah, we are getting a sort of moving on to the cameras. This has a quad camera setup and the 9 has a 3-camera setup and the 9 Pro has a 4-camera setup again. The only difference between the 9R and the 9 Pro in terms of cameras is, actually there are 2 differences. One is the sensor which is being used, and it has a 5-megapixel macro lens, whereas the 9 Pro has a telephoto. So I'm not really sure why we have a macro lens here. Maybe it's the fact that the ultra wide here is 16 megapixels versus what the 9 and the 9 Pro have, which is 48 megapixels. It doubles as a macro camera as well, but the performance is pretty subjective because it's not a dedicated macro camera. So apart from that, they have the same monochrome lens for all 3. And because of the size of the main sensor, or the main sensor that is being used in this, it is not capable of 8K video recording, which the 9 and 9 Pro are capable of. Now if we move on to the OnePlus 9, and this is one more point that I wanted to talk about, the Hasselblad branding that they have. So the sensors in all 3 phones are Sony sensors. The only thing which is Hasselblad in this is the fact that the color science that has been used, or the algorithm that has been used for these cameras, for the color processing and everything else, has been co-developed with Hasselblad. And mind you, Hasselblad does make some amazing cameras, but their cameras are damn expensive. So talking about the specs of the OnePlus 9, if we come down to the performance, as you can see, it does not specify wireless charging over here, and the US website does. So the Indian version of this particular phone does not have wireless charging for some particular reason, and this is something that I believe was mentioned in the keynote as well, that they are making India specific versions, and this version is, I believe, it's available in China as well, which does not have wireless charging. But at a very similar price point, I fail to understand why they did not include wireless charging in the Indian version. Because if we look at the price, it's $729 in the US. That's the starting price. In India, it's 50,000. So if I convert 729 to INR based on the current exchange rate, it comes to about 53,000 or so. So again, at a very similar price point, the same phone overall, but you're not providing wireless charging in one model available for a specific region, and you are providing that in the worldwide release in a way, because the same model would be available in Europe as well, right? So this is something that I am again really confused about. And talking about the screen size, it's the same as what we have in the 9R, the same 120Hz panel, 1080p, the same RAM and storage configuration, same battery, and warp charge 65T. Now, this is one more differentiating factor that we have from the OnePlus 9R, and that is the sensors which are used here. So the OnePlus 9R does have a 48 megapixel main shooter, but it is using a different sensor. Same for the ultra wide. This is a different sensor and a different lens altogether. This is a 50 megapixel sensor, whereas the ultra wide that we have on the 10R is a 16 megapixel, if I am not wrong. Yeah, it's a 16 megapixel sensor. And the same monochrome lens, and because of the bigger main sensor, or the newer main sensor that we have in this, as you guys can see, it's a Sony IMX689 that we have in the 9, and the IMX586 that we have in the 9R. The 9 is capable of 8K video recording at 30 FPS. Now, this is something that is very subjective, to be honest, because Hasselblad is known for still photography. None of their cameras is known for video recording. So depending on what kind of tweaks they've made to this, if Hasselblad has had any intervention in the color science as far as video is concerned, the video quality may be amazing, or it may end up being absolute crap. Lastly, the beast, the 9 Pro itself. Now again, this has a 4 camera setup. It has a slightly bigger screen at 6.7 inches and not 6.55, and it has a 120Hz 1440p panel and not a 1080p panel. So that gives us a total PPI of 525, which is 402 with the 9R and the 9. Another thing with the 9 Pro is the fact that instead of the 15-watt wireless charging which is available in the worldwide release of the OnePlus 9, not the India and China specific release of the OnePlus 9, is the fact that the wireless charging in the 9 Pro is 50 watt. So this is crazy fast. A lot of phones cannot even charge wired at that speed, and OnePlus is claiming wireless charging at that speed. But again, it is using their proprietary charger that they have created. It is an add-on, but if it can charge at this speed, then obviously it's an absolute no-brainer. Another change is the main sensor, which is again a 48 megapixel sensor, but it is the IMX789. It is far superior than what you have in the 9 or the 9R, and it has an ultra wide, an 8 megapixel telephoto, and a monochrome sensor. It does not have a macro. Another difference between the 9 and the 9 Pro is the fact that the 9 Pro has a slightly curved display. It curves along the edges, like what we had with the 8 Pro and the 8T Pro. I'm not a big fan of these curved displays because they can be accidental touches along the edges of the display. They say that the overall curve this time around is lesser than what they had previously, so that is definitely a good thing. but I definitely prefer the flat display that they have in the 9 and the 9R instead of what they have in the 9 Pro. Overall, I'm pretty happy with what OnePlus has released. A little confused as well though, because I'm not really sure why the 9R was released when the Nord already exists. Are they thinking of removing that from the lineup? They're not planning on refreshing that? I'm not really sure. If they're planning on keeping it, then you already have a smartphone at about a 30,000 rupee price point. If someone can go higher and go to that 40,000 sort of a price bracket, why would that person settle there and not go for the higher model, which is the OnePlus 9, and get a better experience and a phone that might last maybe 6 months to a year longer because of the better processor that's there in it. So, and the decision of removing wireless charging from the region-specific models for India and for China for the OnePlus 9, that move is something that, again, I did not really understand at all. Because as far as the price is concerned, as I mentioned, the price point is really similar. For 3,000 rupees less, and that is just a one-to-one currency conversion that I did, for a price difference of about 3,000, 4,000 rupees, why not give that particular feature to people who are actually looking for it? And I've been a very big fan of the OnePlus devices for a very long time. I personally use a OnePlus 5T, my wife has a OnePlus 6, my sister has a OnePlus 7T. I've recommended OnePlus devices to a couple of other friends of mine as well. So though they've crept up in price a little bit, but even today, the price to performance ratio that you get with OnePlus devices is far superior than what you get with a lot of other devices in the market. However, this notion or this move that OnePlus has made with removing one feature for a specific region is something that I really don't understand. So let me know what you guys think about this. Which out of these three would you want to buy? And if there's any specific thing that you want to know about this particular phone. Though I don't have it in my hands, but I'll definitely do my best to answer that question. And until next time, take care.